the poem I chose to analyze was Wife by Ada Limon. Wow. So Ada Limon was born in March of 1976 in Sonoma, California, to a mixed family. She was Hispanic on one side and European on the other. She was an only child, and her parents divorced in 1984 when Lyman was only 8 years old. However, both of her parents later married other people, and they both still held an active role in her life. In an interview, she even once stated that she considered herself very lucky because she had 4 people who loved her, while most people only got 2. She claims that most of her inspiration for writing as a kid came from those around her, particularly her mother, who was an artist, and that she got plenty of support from her family to pursue what she was passionate in, which was writing. As an adult, Ada Lyman married a man named Lucas Marquette, and while the exact day is unknown to the public, we do know that they've been going strong together for over 10 years. The couple initially wanted kids, so they tried for a child. However, it was discovered that Ada had fertility issues, and when she tried to take medicine to fix this issue, it only made other aspects of her health worse. So she ceased her attempts, and the couple made the decision to remain child-free. In terms of her career, Ada has published several books of poetry over her career. The first one she published was called Lucky Wreck, which was published back in 2006, and her most recent book is called The Carrying, which she just published in 2018. In this book in particular, she covers more personal topics such as her issues with health and fertility and her struggle to find her place in the world as a Hispanic American woman in modern America. In one interview, she once even said, "These poems are more of a biography than anything else." The Carrying also includes the poem I will be analyzing, called Wife, which is about her questioning the traditional roles of a wife and what they mean to her. So the first excerpt of the poem is, "I'm not yet comfortable with the word. It's short, clean whoosh that sounds like life. At dinner last night, my single girls said in admonition, 'It's not wife approved,' about a friend's upcoming trip. Their eyes rolled up and over and out their pretty young heads." So Lyman starts off her poem with saying I'm, the personal pronoun I'm, reinforcing the idea of this rather being about herself personally and not just about the broad thought of a wife. She doesn't actually say the word wife in the first opening lines, but rather describes its motion in similar sounding word, that word being life, which infers that the title of life means more than just a title, and actually takes away from the sense of freedom that unmarried women experience compared to married women. The use of the "it's not wife approved" excerpt helps enforce the stereotype that when a woman is married, she's no longer an individual person and is just a wife, before going on to add more stereotypes into the mix by describing her friends as pretty and young, both traits that would be expected in a traditional housewife. I need a wife, the famous feminist wrote, a wife that will keep my clothes clean, ironed, mended, replaced, if need be. A word that could be made easily into made. So the broad purpose of this excerpt from her poem is to mark the seemingly expected role of a wife in the house, to be like maids, as almost explicitly stated. By quoting, "I need a wife that will keep my clothes clean, ironed, mended, replaced if need be," to merely a famous feminist instead of to a specific person, Lyman helps accentuate what was determined earlier in the poem, that a wife by nature loses all sense of individuality. Furthermore, the use of asyndeton in the clothes clean, ironed, mended, replaced if need be, puts across the effect of a never-ending list of tasks that are expected of these wives. Lyman closes out this excerpt by directly comparing a wife to a maid, using the term in a derogatory way to show her displeasure with the idea. The last excerpt is, "A wife that does, fixes, soothes, honors, obeys, housewife, fishwife, bad wife, good wife. What's the word for someone who stares long into the morning, unable to even fix tea some days, the kettle steaming over loud like a train whistle, she who cries in the mornings, she who tears a hole in the earth and cannot stop grieving, the one who wants to love you but often isn't good at even that, the one who doesn't want to be diminished by how much she wants to be yours. So, in this last excerpt of her poem, Ada Limon shifts from a description of what is expected from a traditional housewife to the negative effects the mindset can have and advocates against it. While she starts off this excerpt with a similar tone from the previous one, with the ascendaton list of duties expected of her, the list gradually changes into a more rapid tone, throwing in longer phrases that describe not what is expected of the wife, but of the toll these expectations can take on one. The poem ends suddenly after a buildup of desperation, leaving that even though a woman might want to be happy and in love with her husband, all that comes with the word wife might be too much for her. So if we look at this poem structure as a whole, we can see that it is all written in one large stanza, which helps get across to the reader the growing sense of urgency and dread that comes with the term wife described in this poem. The way the shifts and major points of this poem are hidden with every other word also helps get across this point. So why did I choose this poem? I actually had a really tough time settling on a poem. I had initially wanted to do one based around wonder and peace, but there aren't many of those, especially not in contemporary poetry. So then I decided to head over to look at the topic of social issues. This poem initially caught my eye with its short and to the point title, but I settled on this poem because I liked the style it was written in. The use of only one large stanza always draws me in more, not just to this poem, but in others with a similar structure. And I liked how Lyman got across her message in a less complicated way than others I'd looked at. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.